honor to the Most High God, the great God that keepeth covenants and mercies for them that love him and observe his commandments. And then to his Son, who is the King, the priest, the apostle, who the Father used to reconcile us back to himself. And then everybody that's joined us this evening, elders, mothers, brothers, sisters, children, even those online, as the scripture says, the partakers of the heavenly calling. We thank God for each and every one of you. All right. And we have completed the book of Tobit last week. All right. And now nobody said anything about skipping it and going to, Wisdom of Solomon, so I'm just going to go right in order. We are at the book of Judith. Okay. However, because I don't want to kind of lose this with some of this stuff, not lose y'all. It's a lot of talking about setting up the army and all that, so we're going to kind of skip a few chapters, and our big basis of our reading going to be chapter 4. Okay, but I'm just going to give a few verses before that. Okay, but on your own, you can read through chapters 1 through 3, but just for time's sake and not to, bore you with some of that stuff, I'm going to skip it. So I'm going to start Judith chapter 1. I just want to read, let me just read the first 3 verses. Start from there. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't ask. Anybody have any questions? To remember to always ask that. Anybody have any questions? Oh, we got a hand. What you got, sis?
You said, what was the reason for skimming through Judith? I didn't hear it. I apologize.
Oh, no, I was saying I was going to skip the first 3 chapters. I mean, we could read it, but it's just like setting the stage. They setting up how, basically Nebuchadnezzar is going to set up to take over. So I was just going to skip it just to kind of save some of it and go right to, when kind of Israel got on the scene. It does give the history of it.
Oh, kind. The water.
No problem. All right. So Judith chapter 1, let me read the first 3 verses. So in the 12th year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, all right, Nebuchadnezzar, beloved, who reigned in Nineveh, the great city, in the days of Arphaxad, which reigneth over the Medes in Ecbatana, and built in Ecbatana walls round about of stones hewn 3 cubits broad and 6 cubits long, and made the height of the wall 70 cubits, and the breadth thereof 50 cubits. And set the towers thereof upon the gates of it 100 cubits high, and the breadth thereof, and the foundations 80 cubits. All right. So it's just kind of describing some of the stuff that's going to go into his army a little bit. Read verse 5. Even those days came Nebuchadnezzar, made war with King Arphaxad in the great plain, which is in the plain and the borders of Ragu. Sorry, I'm trashing some of these names. We'll go to the point. All right, let me skip some of this. Go down to verse 11. But all the inhabitants of the land made light of the commandment of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians. Neither went they with him to battle, for they were not afraid of him. Yea, he was before them as one man. And they sent away his ambassadors from them without effect and with disgrace. All right. So Nebuchadnezzar trying to set up his army, and it's just set, like I said, this verse and everything is kind of set in the premise, who's involved, all these kind of things as well. Then he marched in battle array with his power against King Arphaxad in the 17th year, and he prevailed in his battle, for he overthrew all the power of Arphaxad and all the horsemen and all his chariots. All right. And he became Lord of his cities, and came to Ecbatana and took the towers and spoiled the streets thereof and turned the beauty thereof into shame. I did want to get that. Well, he did win the battle, but I also and turned the beauty thereof into shame, right? Because you'll see some of the language in the Bible talk about certain things, right? So turn the beauty thereof into shame, talking about the streets and everything, spoil them. These are things that's kind of, being descriptive, all right? Turn the beauty into the shame is like anything else, something how it's supposed to be, magnified, gloried, and then now you're taking this glory from it. That's how you turn beauty into shame. Same thing is like with our temple, beautiful, glorious, and then what? When we sin or, definitely when we went to the Maccabees, right? They go and sack it and defile it. It's like turn from beauty into shame. Okay. So once again, that's just a little bit of language stuff that the Bible do display in the writings. All right, let's go to chapter 2. Like I said, chapter 4 will be where we sit and read. All right, I did want to let me start from verse 1. All right, chapter 2 and verse 1. And in the 18th year, the 22nd day of the first month, there was talk in the house of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, that he should, as he said, avenge himself on all the earth. Okay. So he called unto him all his officers. Excuse me. So he called unto him all his officers and all his nobles and communicated with them his secret counsel and concluded the afflicting of the whole earth out of his own mouth. Okay. So he wanted to run over the whole earth. And of course, that time when they say like the whole earth is like like that Middle East area, Jerusalem, all that, that's kind of like the whole earth. So you'll see that in writings. They don't talk about the whole earth every time. So you have to know where the writer and what they're dealing with and what they're talking about. Okay, because it's not talking about every depth, every corner, right? But if you own that massive, land over there, like the Middle East and everything, that's like you'll be ruling the world once you have that. Okay, when it comes to biblical. Let me see. Verse 3. Then they decreed to destroy all flesh that did not obey the commandment of his mouth. So this is talking about Nebuchadnezzar. This ain't talking about the Most High. This is Nebuchadnezzar pushing all this stuff. He's like, all right, I'm going to get vengeance on the earth. They don't want to follow me. They don't want to submit to me. All right. So he brought his council together and they come like this. We're going to afflict all of them. All right. We ain't even mix up. We're going to go after all of them. And what? Anybody that did not obey my commandments should be destroyed. Okay. So when we say destroy all flesh, of course it should be, we should know that's not talking about the people that's with them and all that stuff, but everybody else that's not submitted to that, they can be destroyed. Okay. Verse 4. And when he had ended his counsel, Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, called Holofernes, the chief captain of his army, which was next unto him, and said unto him, Thus, verse 5, thus saith the great king, the Lord of the whole earth, behold, thou shalt go forth from my presence, and take with thee men that trust in their own strength, of footmen 120,000, and the number of horses with their riders 12,000. Okay. And thou shalt go against all the west country, because they disobeyed my commandment. Okay, so we see Nebuchadnezzar, what kind of demeanor he has, what he's thinking. All right, he's worrying about taking over, destroying. Either you're going to submit to me or you're going to be destroyed. Okay, so just want to get some of the characteristics of this brother. Okay, let me see. There was something else I want to get. All right, let me read. I'm going to read 7 through 9. And thou shalt declare unto that they prepare for me earth and water, for I will go forth in my wrath against them, and will cover the whole face of the earth with the feet of my army, and I will give them for a spoil unto them. So that their slain shall fill their valleys and brooks, and the rivers shall be filled with their dead, till it overflow. And I will lead them captives to the utmost parts of the earth. Okay. So we see, once again, demeanor, what he's doing, we're taking over, and we're not taking no prisoners, we're killing. Okay. All right. Basically, still giving stuff orders of how he's going to do things. I think this is everything I'm going to get into. Okay, yeah. All right, let's go to chapter 3. Yes. There was something that I wanted to make sure I got this, definitely this verse, but it is in chapter 3. Okay. Once again, he's setting all this stuff up. I'm gonna read verse 2. Behold, we the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, the great king, lie before thee. Use us as shall be good in thy sight. Behold, our houses and our places and our fields of wheat and flocks and herds and all the lodge of our tents lie before thy face. Use them as it pleaseth thee. Let me go down. I'm gonna start at verse 7. Yeah. So they and all the country round about received them with garlands, with dances, and with timbrels. Right? So receiving praise. Listen to this verse 8. Yet he did cast down their frontiers and cut down their groves. All right. So he's destroying these idols and stuff, right? For he had decreed to destroy all the gods of the land, that all nations should worship Nebuchadnezzar only, that all tongues and tribes should call upon him as God. Right? So Nebuchadnezzar was put himself as what? He wanted to be the ultimate God who everybody calls upon. Okay. So remember we reading let's find it. Is that Isaiah 7? Because we got to see the demeanor, because the Bible try to give us characteristics so we can understand it. These people aren't trying to be smooth and slick with their verbiage and trying to be sneaky like America try to be with certain things. Like, no, he was making it clear. No, this is what I want to be. I want y'all to understand. I'm trying to be y'all God, right? So I'm just going to go to Isaiah. This is after, this is when Nebuchadnezzar was already wiping things out. I'm just going to show you. So this is why they was rejoicing even with some of these things. I'm going to read verse 8. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no fellers come up against us. Because remember, it's trying to take over the whole area. Okay, there's a lot of kings that will war against somebody that's next to him and all that stuff. He's trying to take over all of it. All right. So I'm just jump down to 10. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Because this is when he get taken down, he get destroyed, and he ultimately dies. The pump is brought down to the grave, and the noise of the vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms covering thee. And this is the infamous verse. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? All right. And he literally did weaken the nation because he was going and taking over. Look at Nebuchadnezzar, he was doing this. For thou hast said in thy heart, listen, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the cloud. I will be like the Most High. Right? If you're going to destroy everybody's gods and say, y'all only going to be serving me and all that stuff, what's that mindset, beloved? You're trying to be what? The Most High. Okay, this was the mindset of this king. All right, take over, wipe out, everybody serves me. Okay, sometimes they'll let you serve your God as long as you're saying I'm the God above that God you're serving. You know, sometimes they allow that kind of stuff. All right, but he wanted everybody to submit and acknowledge that he is God. All right, so when you think about God, a lot of reasons why people serve God and everything is because, you know, it's like a higher power. You can get, you know, help basically in any form or fashion. People will call upon God and, okay, we don't have no rain. So they'll call upon this God that they believe will provide the rain. All right, we're some depth with the sun. We need the sun for harvest. So they'll make a God to, you know, go into that. So it's about a lot of times these idols and everything is for help, right? So we understand that even though they got the wrong things, right? Primarily, that's the relationship of God and people, right? We pray to Him because we need or whatever. He's a a superior being that can provide for us. Okay, so Nebuchadnezzar wanted to be in that kind of Nebuchadnezzar wanted to be on that kind of level. All right, destroy all these things. They're nothing. I'm the true God, right? All right, so that's pretty much it. Let's go to our chapter. All right. So it's chapter 4. Now, the children of Israel that dwelt in Judea heard all that Holofernes, the chief captain of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, had done to the nations, and after what manner he had spoiled all their temples and brought them to naught. Once again, showing you what he was doing. He was going what? Going through all the nations, and he was what? Spoiling their temples, dropping them, and what? Taking the stuff, the riches from them. Okay? And we know eventually he did that to what? Us as well. Okay? But we're not there. We're not at that point. Okay? So he spoiled all the temples and brought them to naught, to nothing. Verse 2. Therefore they were exceedingly afraid of him and were troubled for Jerusalem and for the temple of the Lord their God. All right, so they hearing this stuff, this God, this king coming, wiping out all these nations and, sacking their temples and stuff. So we started, oh my God, this guy's coming. We got Jerusalem, the temple of God, he's going to come and destroy that, right? He going to show no mercy to that. So now they're getting afraid. So verse 3, for they were newly returned from their captivity, just got returned from our captivity. And all the people of Judea were lately gathered together. And the vessels and the altar and the house were sanctified after the profanation. Okay. Verse 4, therefore they sent into all the coasts of Samaria and all the villages into Bethlehem and Belman and Jericho and to Choba and Asura and to the valley of Salam. Verse 5, and possessed themselves beforehand of all the tops of the high mountains and fortified the villages that were in them and laid up victuals for the provision of war, for the fields were of late reaped. Okay, so basically they're preparing. This guy's going to come. We know what his mission is. We're going to prepare. We're fortifying, the cities and the ways for, you go to the top of mountains, you get that, right? That sight, that vision, be able to scope things out, spy things out. Also, they just reaped the harvest. So once again, one thing an army will do, you can fortify yourself. But if you got all your food and everything out here, we'll burn it or keep you from that. And starvation usually breaks people and you'll leave the siege. So a lot of times strength is how much we have great walls is good, right? But an army will stay out your walls for, months and years until you come out. We ain't gonna fight against the wall. You're gonna wipe us off and pick us off from the wall. But what we'll do, we'll wait right out here, make sure you can't get no resources, right? Because then when y'all start getting hungry and everything, it's going to be either some problems in that wall or y'all going to come out. Okay. So this is what they're saying. We just reaped. So we have a lot of our food. We brought it in. Okay. So we're kind of good. And verse 6. Also Joachim, the high priest, which was in those days in Jerusalem, wrote to them that dwelt in Bethulia and Benamestham, which is over against Esdraelon, toward the open country near to Dothium. All right. I need Kai to mess up these names. All right. So the high priest is writing these letters. Okay. Verse 7, charging them to keep the passages of the hill country, For by them there was an entrance into Judea, and it was easy to stop them that would come up, because the passage was straight for 2 men at the most. Okay, so this probably sounds familiar if you're thinking about a certain movie, right? A famous movie. What they do, there was a what? A way, like a little funnel, right? So what? I'm thinking it's 300. You know, if y'all watch 300, right? The way it is, like, listen, we don't care. They have a great army, right? But if we can get them to funnel through this little section, their numbers, they can only come in, you know, a few at a time. That's when your numbers really don't mean nothing, because now it's like if it can only fit like 5 people, it's 5 on 5. I just got to keep beating your 5. Okay, instead of a big open field where a number, you know, a large number can surround you or something. So this is what the high priest doing. So we seeing this. I want you to understand, when we looking at high priest and stuff, they have other jobs than just reading and stuff, right? We see them sending stuff, even war strategies. Okay, something to think about. All right, so he told him that, and he said, what, for 2 men at the most. So we're going to close it up, and basically they can go through this small passage where they can only, basically it's only 2 men wide. Okay, so they only fit 2 men basically going through at a time. All right, that's a good setup, right? Like I said, funneling the army. So that number ain't going to mean much, and we're going to pick out a lot more than they'll get us if it goes right, of course. All right, verse 8. And the children of Israel did as Joachim the high priest had commanded them, with the ancients of all the people of Israel which dwelt at Jerusalem. Okay, so they're giving that command, Jerusalem, and letting everybody know. And once again, we can see there's a blessing in submitting to that leadership as well, right? Definitely when you're doing right, trying to do right, right? If he's wicked and all that stuff, something different, but you know, this is something where there's a blessing in it, right? You talk about Moses and all these great leaders and stuff like that. When they're good and they're being godly and doing the things of the Most High, there's a blessing in the obedience. Okay, this is why the Most High teaches about, you know, submitting to one another. It ain't just to the leader and stuff, submitting to one another. All right, definitely now, you know, we all have that, we have the Holy Spirit, right? So we should be able to submit to one another. Okay, all right. Let's go. Okay, verse 9. Then every man of Israel cried to God with great fervency, and with great vehemency did they humble their souls, right? So they had a strategy, right? They was trying to put up, you know, protect the city and do these things and fortify it, right? But also, beloved, they still what? Had to still cry to God. You can have the best game plan, but without God watching the city, it don't matter. Okay? If God don't watch the city, the watchman gonna watch in vain. Okay? And this is what people don't know. People lean to just their own understanding. Oh, this is a good plan. It's a great plan. Yeah, it probably is. But it's only great if God is in it. Okay? So with this, and this is showing us, you need to put some work into it, right? They put their works in it. They did their part, and then what? They put in the hands of the Most High, crying out to him. Okay? Verse 10. Both they and their wives and their children and their cattle and every stranger and hireling and their servants brought with money put sackcloth upon their loins. Okay, so everybody was putting sackcloth on. Why were we putting sackcloth on? When did we put sackcloth on primarily? What's usually going to happen? Anybody know? All right.
Con, mourning, repenting.
Yes. Perfect. Yep. It's an outward sign to basically show mourning, right? You're going through things like that, right? You usually put like little potato sack things on, right? Look, put the dirt, like the itchy stuff, right? And putting dirt and everything to show I'm going through it, right? And kind of showing that a little bit so we can kind of see when we see one of the, all right, that person going and they're trying to what? They're trying to get the Most High's attention. Okay. But like everything else, we don't understand the spiritual aspect behind it, right? And we got caught up on just looking this way, but not really what? Rending our heart. Okay. So when Christ comes to see, he's saying, listen, you don't got to worry about, rend your heart. All right. Don't appear to men as fasting. Oh, I'm starving. Oh, what's wrong with my, just fasting, with the Lord to, you don't want that kind of show. Okay. Because the Most High is about what? The humility and the inside. But this is what you see all over the world. It's all about the show. All about how much, fame and notoriety you can get for this. So you get praise to men. Most I saying, you trying to get praise to men, you ain't trying to hear from me. So you got to choose. Okay. So yes, we will put the sackcloth and everything to show that we're in mourning, and primarily that will be connected to fasting if it's, serious, which this is. All right. So verse 11. Thus every man and woman and the little children and the inhabitants of Jerusalem fell before the temple and cast ashes upon their heads and spread out their sackcloth before the face of the Lord. Also, they put sackcloth upon the altar. All right. So they put everything. Listen, we show them full mourning. And what happened? They're putting everybody, having everybody do this. Right. How much will we submit? If the leader, we going through something, how many of us will be like, you know what? Well, I ain't doing it. I don't care. I'm not going to fast and everything. Right. But this is the beauty about that being on one accord, really getting God's attention. Right. Everybody, the men, women, children, cattle, everybody fasting and throwing the sackcloths and going into this mourning. All right. So we're going to see what Most High is going to do about this. All right. Verse 12. And cried to the God of Israel, all with one consent earnestly. All right. That is the point, beloved. Okay. It's not just about fat, because you can just start, people just starve themselves and call it fasting, not fasting. Right. That fast is to break the yoke. A lot of times it's to break the yoke in you. Sometimes we think we're fasting and it's going to fix the situation outside. Right. Which is primarily, I'm not saying it can't do stuff like that. But that fasting is a two-edged sword with it as well, because what? It's supposed to get you cleaned up. Because some things, the problem is not out there. Sometimes what? The problem is within you. Okay? Well, that person ain't doing that. Yeah, but you need to fast so your spiritual person can grow. This is why Christ said it was disciples coming. Christ is saying what? Why couldn't we cast out this thing, right? Why couldn't we heal this child, get this devil out of him? He said, this kind come out by fasting and prayer. All right. There are certain strongholds, beloved, that yes, the prayer is good. I ain't going to knock it. But some things you probably throw a fast on it as well. And you feel like the prayer just not getting that breakthrough, there's another tool. And that tool is to what? Increase your faith. Okay? Because when you understand about faith, that's where the power is. When you have faith of a mustard seed, you can say, what? Mountain be removed. Think about that. Little faith of a mustard seed, you can tell the mountain be removed. Think about situations, beloved. Some things ain't even mountains. But when you don't have faith, everything seems like the biggest mountain. But sometimes when that fasting, you can see that you thought was a big problem. Some of that things you're like, man, that's a small hill. And then you get to the level where what? You can say, get out the way. That don't bother me. Okay. So something with fasting and praying, but beloved, when we do it collectively, there's power in that as well. Okay. You can do this by yourself. Okay. But also collectively. Okay. Most High definitely looks at that. Being on one accord, right? Being on one accord, there's a beauty in that. Remember, we said with 2 or 3 gather in my name, we have these things about unity and being one. Okay, beloved. When we come in as this ministry, it's about what? Us being one. And when people come in, it's getting them to be what? One. And sometimes you got to fast and pray for people coming in. Okay, because sometimes they might not get it. Okay, we want to be one. And that takes the Spirit of God to jail all these different, personalities and things and characteristics that we all possess, right? All these even gifts that we have, but that one accord is that spirit, all right? So we can all move together. Okay, because yes, we can have the Spirit of God with certain things or certain gifts and everything, but we have to pray the Most High that we can work together with them. right? That's the purpose of it. Gifts are for the edification of the church. But if you ain't thinking about being on one accord, you ain't worrying about edifying the church. A lot of times we want gifts to edify ourselves, give ourselves praise and prestige. It's not what it's about, beloved. Okay? All right. So we're back at verse 12. And cried to the God of Israel all with one consent earnestly, that he would not give their children for a prey, and their wives for a spoil, and the cities of their inheritance to destruction, and the sanctuary to profanation and reproach, and for the nation to rejoice at. Okay, so they're giving their specifics, right? You got to tell the Lord what you want. Okay, so one of the things we think about, all right, the men, yes, you go to war, men do die, yes, that does happen. But what happened? A lot of times we think about the children are targets. They get victimized, so now they get taken in that captivity, and then what? They get indoctrinated with these heathen customs and things of that nature. A lot of times, what happens? Okay, the women, they get taken for spoils, right? They become captives. They can become slaves, and even we know the other thing that happened to women. Okay, so they're not being honored in this. All right, so everybody's being affected. And I want you to understand, even they talk about the hirelings and the servants and the strangers, people that were with Israel were submitting to this. Right? Care if you was from another nation. If you was under Israel, under that banner, you was doing this. If you wasn't feel like you were, oh, well, I ain't gonna do it. See, you're just gonna show who you are. Okay? But everybody that was connected and submitting to the Most High, was in the covenant with the Most High, saying, I'm going to listen and do your commandments, they were in this. Okay? All right. Verse 13. All right. Verse 13. And if anybody had anything, please just unmute or whatever. All right. Verse 13. So God heard their prayers and looked upon their afflictions. For the people fasted many days in all Judea and Jerusalem before the sanctuary of the Lord Almighty. All right. So we understand what the sanctuary was definitely representing, right? The house of God, where you'll go, you'll commune, if you want to get a message or anything, like a lot of times go to the temple and do those things, right? I messed up. Okay, I need to do this sacrifice, or I want to just thank God for what he do. Go to the sanctuary, we give certain things. So they was crying out to him. Everybody wasn't at Jerusalem, but wherever they at, they put their mind to Jerusalem. All right. Going to the Most High. And this is what he's saying. God looked upon their afflictions. Because God's seeing all this stuff. I want you to catch the language. Don't ain't like God wasn't seeing what was going on, right? But sometimes you don't move because you don't ask. Yeah, he can do it. He can do whatever you want to do. Sometimes we don't ask. Sometimes we can't even be humble. We can't even humble ourselves to ask the Most High. Or sometimes we're scared, fearful to ask the Most High for things. You have to get in our minds, right? He is your Father. He wants what's best for you. A lot of times we have to ask, right? He said you got to put some action into it. Okay, so ask the Most High. You going through something? Ask him. Yeah, he sees what you're going through, but ask him, Lord, I need your help. I need you to guide me. Okay. Then see. All right. Then you wait. After you do the prayer and everything, then you wait. After you did the will of God, you need patience. Then you can be patient. Lord, I already brought it up to the Lord. I ain't gonna keep bringing it up every 3 seconds. I brought it up to him. Now I just got to sit and wait and see what the Most High is going to do. All right. Can't force his hand to do something he don't want to do. Right. But you pray, you do everything on your end, and then you leave it in his hands. All right. Verse 14. Verse 14. And Joachim the high priest and all the priests that stood before the Lord, and they which ministered unto the Lord, had their loins girt with sackcloth, and offered the daily burnt offerings, and with the vows and free gifts of the people. All right. So Joachim all the high priest, they had their little sackcloths in. Everybody was in mourning. All right. And this is the beautiful thing about this is some people look like, oh my God, they all in sackcloth is dirt. But the beauty that the Most High see in this is what? his children on one accord going to him. All right. This is what we don't see about the unity. Unity is a beautiful thing because it takes God to bring unity and peace. It's hard, beloved. It's why it gets hard. Because naturally, carnally, right, we worry about what? Self. That's a natural thing. Don't look at people evil when they worry about self. That's what you worry about, self. That's a natural thing, right? But we are above the natural. We are spiritual. That's what pushes into what? Worrying about others. Sometimes you got to push yourself low so your brother and sister can elevate, right? So this is when we talk about love and all that stuff, it's about the unity spirit. That's a different spirit that the world sometimes can't receive. They'll look at it like, I don't understand that. Right? You got all the, you good, you got this money, man. You should be worrying about you. Nah, I'm putting this in the church because I got what? I want this to help my brothers and sisters out here. So this is why we thinking, beloved, it's not about what we can always receive and get, but what can we give? You ever thought about maybe the lesson is you worrying about how much you can give, and most times just give you more because what you're going to do with it. Before we give something, we usually see what's going to happen when I do this, when I give this to you or whatever, right? Most times looking the same thing. We'll see where your heart's at. All right, some of our hearts aren't clean. That's why sometimes the first thing we have to do, we got to get our hearts clean. I want the Most High to use you, but what are you going to do when He give you that power? Talking to a brother one time, and he was saying, can we? He's like, Brother Mike, can we go and do those things in the Bible, right? You could that healing, all that stuff we see in the Bible. I think we could do that. I'm like, I don't see no reason why not. He's like, but people ain't doing it. I was like, who said people ain't doing it? And I was like, what do you want from that? I was like, a lot of times, I was like, it ain't about what God doing. You not doing it the same reason some of our forefathers and foremothers were doing certain things, right? Like you want to do that gift to say, I did it. So I could be the man of God. We want it for that. And that's why sometimes we ain't receiving that power. Great power, great responsibility. So a lot of times we cry for things. He's trying to shape and mold us so that we can receive it, beloved. But if you just want to be selfish with that gift, why should He give it to you? Why should He grow you in that gift when you just worrying about self with it? I had to learn that as a young man with teaching. I was trying to convince myself. It's about making sure the people good. I do want to teach people good, right? Some of that stuff I wanted to be acknowledged at sometimes. Oh, that man, God, it's that seeing that growing up, and it's a good aspiration when you're young, seeing and want to be in that righteous path and everything. But when the Most High start dealing with you, He changes you and your mind and your thinking. When you start to see, man, this ain't about people praise you, but how much you can give to the people. That's what makes a great leader. When you understand what God does, it's totally different than how the world views it. Okay? Your mind is always, how can I serve the people? Plagued with that in the mind, right? Always thinking about the people. It's a beautiful thing. And I thank the Most High for that spirit. It's the same spirit in us. It's a lot of things in us, beloved. But the Most High is what? Sometimes He'll condition us so that when He gives us that great power, we will what? We'll be responsible with it. Okay? Everything is what? It's for His glory, not ours. I understand through all trial tribulation, it's all about Him. We saying all power to the most, all praise to the Most High. I believe it. I know it. Because I know how much I'm nothing. Because He showed me without Him, I was nothing. And I'm still nothing without Him. But I thank Him for anything that's good within me, I thank Him for it. And I just ask to purge anything that's like me out of me. And I want more of Him. Okay? All right. So they were giving still through this. They were still doing the offerings and things like that. Because it don't stop because some threat is coming, beloved. This is the time to get close to the Most High God. All right. Some people see the threat and, oh my God, all this worry and worry and worry. What should I do? What should I do? You do what the Most High told you to do. You stick to the game plan. Right? A lot of times people don't stick to the game plan. It don't change the matter what's going on around. Most High say, well, you do my commandments. You do my commandments and everything when it's convenient, it's peaceful and all this stuff. No, you got to stay doing the same thing regardless. I don't care if hell's breaking loose outside. You're going to still do what thus saith the Lord. It might not feel good. I might not want to, but I still got to do what thus saith the Lord. Care about how I feel? You didn't feel like giving me praise now. Okay. When you feel like it, I no. Because when we cry out to him, we want him to be what? Automatic. But we have to show that dedication, that discipline first. The true worshipers, beloved, ain't just about emotions and motivational things, right? Because it'll cease after a while. It's times where you're just not going to feel like doing certain things. But he gave us the spirit of discipline. All right? Because, beloved, we're going to walk this thing. There's going to be some stuff you don't not feel like doing. But that's not a reason to what? Go off. All right? All right. Let me give you the last verse and let y'all go. Verse 15. And had ashes on their mitres. All right. So remember, we used to wear the mitres, right? The headpiece. Put ashes on the mitres and cried unto the Lord with all their power, that he will look upon all the house of Israel graciously. Okay. I love that. All the house of Israel, because we see what there's other things in there. But everybody that made a covenant with the God of Israel, saying they will serve him, saying, they was praying that all of them have peace. All of them get the grace of God. And you think about the beaches and everything, these are like, we kind of look at them as, almost like the crowns we'll have, right? The head wrap on all those kind of things, right? But they put it on there because it's about what? Not our glory, but we showing that what? With the ashes and everything, that we humbling ourselves. All the glory and things that make us beautiful and nice and all that stuff, we putting that on to really show the humility. Humility. And that's the same thing today, beloved. You want something from the Most High? Humble yourself. Come prayerfully before him. There's a lot of times we don't do that. We got a problem sometimes with somebody. We wanted to, Lord, I've been doing the commandments, Lord, but this person, look at all, and we look at all their faults, look at all that stuff. And the Most High, like, you don't see how in the gall of wickedness you in. You don't even understand what you're doing right now. But if I come clean in the house, I got to clean you up too. You don't want that. Sometimes we praying for our own damnation and don't understand it. So we ask the Most High, creating us a clean heart, renewing us a right spirit. Right? Love it. It's time to get our minds right. All right? And start to serve God, like I said, with all our power, all our might. That's the first and great commandment. Right? Beloved, we will end it there. All right. That's Judith chapter 4. And with that, I say